the rest of the story. I wonder if anybody ever guesstimated how many hundreds of thousands of lives have been saved because Charles Richard Drew decided not to become a jockey. Oh, that was his first career choice. But the profession for which he studied in school and which he eventually pursued was medicine. So the world of horse racing may have lost a winner, but the field of hematology was blessed with one of its most outstanding contributors. For it was Dr. Charles Richard Drew who discovered that plasma, the non-cellular fluid part of blood, could be preserved outside the body without spoiling for much longer periods than whole blood, and furthermore, that in emergency situations, plasma could be transfused without typing or cross-matching for the individual patient. In the wake of these discoveries, Dr. Drew modernized blood collection and preservation processes. He even established his own blood bank at Presbyterian Hospital, New York. But then in February 1941, as the possibility of American involvement in a global war reared its head, Dr. Charles Drew was appointed medical director of the American Red Cross Blood Bank Program and assistant director of blood procurement for the National Research Council. Collecting and storing and distributing blood for the American Armed Forces would be vital to the war effort. And to ensure success, Dr. Drew was placed in charge of those operations. The honor was immensely flattering to him, but then he never anticipated the rest of the story. For only a few weeks after Dr. Drew's appointment to those lofty posts, a directive was issued by the armed services. A study of transfusion recipients in hospitals had indicated the reluctance of many to accept racially diverse donor blood. That is, whites were inclined to refuse blood from black donors. Sometimes Gentiles refused blood from Jewish donors. One patient had even told his doctor he feared being infected with Catholic blood. But the main objection was that of whites to black blood donors. In fact, some chapters of the Red Cross, responding to that frequent protest, had already begun segregating the blood in their repositories. So the American Armed Forces decided that in all wartime blood banks, Caucasian blood must be separated from the rest. Well, that directive landed directly on the desk of Dr. Charles Richard Drew, and his reply was prompt and precise. Blood is blood, he said. White blood, black blood, it was all chemically, biologically the same, and Dr. Drew was not about to cast aspersions on his past accomplishments by sanctioning segregated blood and lending credibility to unscientific notions. But the armed services would not relent. So Dr. Drew resigned from his prestigious positions, returned to his teaching job at Howard University Medical School, and worse still, he gave up research, never to resume. 9 years later, a car accident took his life, and he was only 45. And yet in the annals of 20th century medicine, few ironies can compete with the true tale of this brilliant hematologist whose unique discoveries continue to this day to save countless lives each year, and yet who was asked to validate the lie that black blood was somehow different, despite the fact that he, Dr. Charles Richard Drew, was himself a black man. Now you know the rest of the story.